should be live in a second.
All right, I'm alive.
And here we are, together. Harold Zvi Miller, welcome to You've Got Mel.
Thank you.
And happy birthday.
It was a couple of weeks ago, but yeah.
You are, I think chronologically, you are the most senior of the people that I've interviewed.
Uh-huh.
Not in
Okay.
spirit. Not in spirit.
It's not a question of spirit. It's a question of a work in progress. So,
And when did that work begin?
well, I guess it began before I could think even. But my parents probably weren't thinking either at the time because it was the big depression and all they needed was me.
Exactly.
But
But can we tell the audience how old you are these days?
yes, started my 91st year.
Okay,
Uh,
and you are my 90th interviewee.
I'm what?
You're interviewee number 90 on You've Got Mel.
Okay, I'm the 90th interview.
You're the 90th interviewee in honor of your 90th birthday. We start with the jingle.
Okay. Did you plan it that way?
Yeah, absolutely. We start with the jingle. So, we have to have the jingle.
Okay, go jingle. I'm waiting.
Otherwise it just isn't, la même chose.
Okay, You've Got Mel. I can see it.
Sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove. You got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while. All you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell? You got Mel. When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down. We're the only show in town. SRO, don't you know? You got Mel. Give it up, don't think twice. We're a hurricane on ice. What the hell? Give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell. You got Mel.
You've got Mel.
And
I got Mel.
Oh!
Or we'll sweep you off.
Once is more than enough. And Mel
Okay.
has Harold Zvi Miller. So, Zvi, can I call you Zvi?
Yes, everybody does.
Okay. Do you want to describe how we got to know each other 51 years ago?
Just a minute. The whole workshop is joining in, so I can't hear you. Okay. I think they're on now.
September the 7th or 8th, 1969.
Yes. You remember that date? More or less. I remember because I did my homework and I remembered all the names and pictures. And when I greeted you guys at the airport, I called everybody by name. And Beth Sherman thought I was spying on on you guys. I said, no, I just wanted to know. But yeah, I remember that date.
So there were 44 kids, barely 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And you and Nomi took on a very critical role in our lives as being our shepherds for a very challenging year in Kibbutz Urim.
It was a very exciting year for me and for Nomi. And it was the first time I got a chance to work with her. And wow, it was really very exciting to work with her. Because she always knew what I had forgotten or didn't think of. So, I mean, everything was covered that way. And I didn't have to worry about forgetting things because I couldn't even use my age as an excuse for being forgetful. It's just the way it was.
So, how did you get the job as being our guide, our counselor, our mentor, our rabbi?
I'd like to say I planned it because when I look back at the way I grew up, it sort of worked that way. Because when I decided to come to Israel, I said I'd put off my studies till later and I'll become a farmer and do whatever has to be done. Uh, and when I was in Habonim, I liked working with kids. So I knew that was something that I'd like to do. So aside from doing the Sidur Avodah and things like that over the years, I worked in the dairy, and then I worked with I was a shepherd, and then when they sold the sheep, I was looking around what to do, and I got to work with the Chevrat Noar.
With the
This was before those 64 or 65, and I worked with them for 3 years. They went in the army, and I got my first year of limudim, which I said to myself, after 17, 18 years, I can go out to study in the university. That itself was very challenging for me. I got there, it was the first time I was in Givat Ram, lawn, young kids all over the place, and I didn't know where to go. There were like 5 buildings. And somebody said, go to Mexico. I said, what do you mean go to Mexico? Turns out there was a building called Mexico, but I didn't know that. So after about an hour of wandering around on the lawns, I just walked into one of the buildings, walked into one of the offices, opened up the door. There was a nice man sitting there with glasses. I remember him. And he looks up and he said, what can I do for you? And I say, I've waited 17 years to get limudim from the kibbutz. They finally allowed me to come. I can't go back home after one day saying I couldn't even register, but I don't know what to do. And hakol emet v'rak emet. And he was very nice, and he picked up the phone and started calling a few people. And he sent me over someplace, and I filled out some pieces of paper, and I was suddenly registered to be a student. And then they told me, you have to come to study Hebrew. And I said, why? I've been here 17 years, and I studied in America before I came. And they said, because you're American. I said, if I came from Hungary, like some other kids did in 1950, they said, no, then you wouldn't have to. So only because I'm American, I got to do it. They said yes. It was a wonderful thing that they said yes for me, because then I could start my studies a little bit earlier. And the Six-Day War broke out in June. And the Six-Day War broke out, and 6 days later, Six-Day War, it was over. And the Jewish Agency got a whole bunch of mitayalim, people who were touring in the old city. They didn't know what to do with them. They spoke English. So they sent the whole group to the kibbutz. The kibbutz didn't know what to do with me for the month that I had until July, when I had to go out to study. So they had me work with them. And in that group, there were 6 Welsh kids. I think it was 2 girls, 4 boys. And they came from the old city. And I went in to see them. And I asked them, can I go see somebody in the old city where I can get a place to live? And that started my whole adventure, because before I went out to study in July, I was already ensconced in a house in the old city. And I spent the whole year both studying and learning in the old city about people and life. And it was sort of the most forming year of my life, I think, for me. And at the end, when I was supposed to come back to the kibbutz, I got my first workshop, which was the 18th, before you guys. So that by the time I got you, I was well versed in working with kids, and you guys were an amazing group, challenging but amazing.
One of the things to your credit, Zvi, is that 51 years later, and among the 44 kids who started workshop and I think 41 finished, most of us are in touch with one another. And
Yes, it's amazing. It's
and
amazing.
last week we got together on Zoom, over
Yeah.
20, and like we're turning 70 this year. When I see you, I feel like I'm 18. Uh,
Yes, I can't believe that you guys are in the danger group for COVID-19.
exactly. Let's go back and we'll make a little bit of Seder here, a little bit of organization. So when we met,
Seder is a Western concept. Remember that.
absolutely together with time.
Yeah.
So you were born. Tell us about your growing up before you came to Israel in 1950.
Oh, I was born in Coney Island. I don't know if you know where that is in Brooklyn. At the time, it was, well, let's see now. It was a very mixed community, but the streets were separate, sort of. There was an Italian community, a Polish community up higher up there, a Jewish community, and a Black community. And I was like, the sea was on one side and the bay was on the other, and that's the way it divided up. So we were just at the beginning of the Black community because we couldn't afford anything better. So I think I grew up being a chameleon because I could get along with every one of these groups. The hardest were the Jews. I mean, I looked Jewish, so they couldn't say no. But I don't know, they were strange. So that's what I would say about growing up. Also, I was the youngest member of the first polar bear club in America. And that's in Coney Island, the first polar bear club that was established there.
You'll have to explain this to the Canadians.
That's starting on November 21st and on into March. They'd be going down 2-3 times a week to the sea, to the ocean, and armed with a lot of alcohol and towels. They'd go in for quick swims and come out and then go back and play cards and hang around in their club. And I used to go down to the sea, especially in the fall, because I just liked looking around. And I saw them going in to swim. I went to join them. And they said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." They say, "Can you drink whiskey?" I said, "Sure."
How old were you? How old were you?
Not before bar mitzvah. I was only like 12 and a half. So I went in with them and they took care of me. They rolled me around in towels afterwards and warmed me up. And whenever I could, I joined them for that time. I was their youngest member.
And how were you? How were you as a kid? Were you a well-behaved kid?
I couldn't say that. No, not really wild. Just I don't know. Different, I guess. Different.
In what sense?
I used to go around and pick up puppies that people threw away and bring them home. And my mother would have to, and they were usually female and mostly pregnant also. And she'd have to find where to put the pups. But I always liked animals. Always. I don't know. I went to yeshiva for 4 years.
What?
Yeah. Went to yeshiva of Brighton Beach for 4 years. My parents decided it was really important. They spent whatever money they didn't have. And I left when I got into an argument with my teachers over Akedat Yitzchak. And
The sacrifice of Isaac.
Yeah, and I asked why didn't they tell the kid that they're going to kill him? What kind of a father is he? And he didn't tell his wife anything either. She's in the dark completely. So, so they hit me. So I decided I'm going to leave. And
How old were you when you parted ways?
I was 11.
You were 11, 1 year before the polar bears.
Yeah, before the polar bears.
And when did you? So some people here watch. They don't know what Habonim is. Habonim. You joined Habonim after the Polar Bear Club.
Oh, a long time. A couple of years later. First of all, the hormones started going, and I was looking around for girls, and I couldn't find them. I mean, they were there, but I couldn't find them because I don't know why.
You were busy swimming in the winter.
No, I was doing everything I could, but I just couldn't find them. I guess there's just boys. I was in Youngs. I went to Youngs once, and some guys from different parts of Brooklyn, my best friends actually in the end, came to try and do some kind of a enrollment of kids from the poorer area of. So I was the only one they got, and they really got me because they had very pretty girls there, and all I had to do is learn how to talk ideology, which I didn't know what it meant even at the time. But that was fine, and I could learn easy. I was, like I said, a chameleon. I lost my Brooklyn accent. I used to talk with a real rough Brooklyn accent, and I had these pants that are tight in the bottom, and everything. Zoot suits, they called them, yeah. So that was it. And after that, it was just, I knew I had to get out of the house where I was living if I wanted to have a different kind of life. I didn't know what kind of life I really wanted. But I had a brother. He passed away with polio, so I spent a lot of time with him. We learned how to play chess together and like that. And when I was moving around, I realized that I'd be tied down unless I got away. So Israel seemed like a very good thing to do, because on the one hand it was acceptable, and on the other hand it was getting me away. And all I had to do was work, and I knew how to work. I mean, that came easy to me. So that was it.
So in 1950, and I guess you were about our age when you came to Israel.
I had my 19th birthday on the Oniat Negba, the Negba boat. That was next to last time before they threw it away. And it was a boat. They just begun. I started out high class kilo. From New York, we went in the Queen Mary, but we were steerage. We heard them dancing and drinking above us, and that's. Anyway, we went there from there to Le Havre to France, and then from Habonim there, they took us across to Marseille. And that's me and Mats and one other guy, I forget his name. And then we spent a week in a camp, in a displaced persons camp. I only found out now, I think recently, I should have thought then, but there were two camps apparently, because where I was all Jews from the camps that had been there for years. This is at the end of 49. And when we got on the boat, it was full of olim from Morocco, Tunis, etc. We arrived in Israel on the 3rd of January. So December 31st, my birthday, the crew of this boat were not Jewish in any way. They were celebrating and they were getting drunk all over the place down below. And there was I used to sleep up. I sleep up on top of the deck because I didn't want to get in with the whole crowd there. And I heard noise, and I looked down, and the captain was trying to get the guys back into their bunks, and he finally took a shot up in the air, and they scared them all away. So that was my 19th birthday.
So there were fireworks on your birthday.
Yeah.
And so you arrive in Israel. I have to mention, because not everybody knows what Habonim is. Habonim is a socialist, youth movement Zionist.
A labor Zionist.
Labor Zionist that goes back to the 1920s or 30s. My parents, late parents were in Habonim. And from Coney Island, with sea here and sea there, and Harold Miller jumping into the water in November, you end up in the scorching desert in the middle of bloody nowhere.
You see, that's it. I was looking forward to warm weather, but I got there, and you can look up 1950, the winter. And we were wandering, Mats and I were wandering around the country, and they had the biggest snow in recorded history then.
That's right.
And all you could hear in the morning were trees breaking all over the country, everywhere. We were traveling. I mean, and we got to Gesher Aziv. We spent a couple of nights there. They didn't want us. We were in tents, and the tents caved in one after the other.
Gesher Aziv turned you away.
Huh?
Gesher Aziv didn't want you.
They did not want us at all. And we didn't know what to do. We broke into a Bet Sefer. You were not allowed to go there because they were still building it. So in the morning we got up and we left. And we kept traveling around. And when we were a little garin, we were a small group of 6 people, actually. There was just 2 of us, me and Mats at the beginning. The Garin Bet, the large group, were coming in, I think, March, something like that. But we got there, and the 2 of us, and we thought to go to a kibbutz nearby, near Geva, because the Americans were going to Geva. But when we looked at the difference between the 2 places, between Ein Harod and Geva, they're next door one to the other. Geva was really a farmer's farm. It really looked just right. So we went there. And I got married there, and I got to Urim, and like that.
So from the cold of New York waters to the Israeli desert.
No desert, freezing.
Yeah, no, but the desert is cold in the winter. I remember Urim in the winter. So it's Zvi, when we got to Urim in 1969, it was like, where are we? At least I felt like really in the middle of nowhere. And then you guys took us out on the border to patrol and look for terrorists that night.
Mm-hmm.
It was a joke, but
yes.
we felt like we were in the middle. Like today would be like in the middle of Iraq or Afghanistan. And, a kibbutz, wait a second, with 1 television, 1 telephone, really literally in the middle of nowhere. And that was 1969. You got there almost 20 years earlier.
Yes.
What was it?
Well, that's why I fell in love with it, because we were driving down this and not even a road, it was something with big clouds of dust, because the earth there is less soil, LOESS, and it's very tight, but then when it dries up, it just flies all over. It's very thin grains. And we came driving in with this truck, a great big cloud, and there was 1 tree, 1 little lawn, and a couple of Arab houses, and 2, 3 Arab houses, and then some wooden houses where the kibbutz was. I fell in love with the place on the spot, and I said, "That's where I want to go." So there was a big fight because they, in the movement, they thought that the Americans couldn't take that. We had to fight to get there. Anyway, we got there. Otherwise, we would have been in, I forget the name of Zayed, Alexander Zayed. They had a kibbutz in his name on the way to Haifa. So they wanted us there.
And in what year did you leave Urim?
Urim? Oh, now we move forward.
No, we're gonna move forward and backward.
I left Urim in 79. No, sorry. I went out for Shnat Chofish in 79. I got married to Weasel then. Before that, I started working in Bet Shemesh as a member of the kibbutz movement because I said I wanted to leave, and they said, "Look, maybe we'll do something." So 3 years I was a representative in Bet Shemesh of the kibbutz, United Kibbutz movement, and we left. That's it. That's the way it went.
So I have lots of questions. Let's talk about the year. Let's talk about the year on Urim, the workshop year, with the 44 crazy Michigan, anxious, crazy, ridiculous kids, and you had to corral us in with No Me for a year.
You guys were, first of all, you guys were great. The year before, we had a lovely group, but it was very, very small.
Yeah.
There were 18 kids there, and it was very difficult to work with for me. It was a different kind of a learning experience. With you guys, we could do all kinds of things. I mean, I remember when we went to the Binyanei Uma in Jerusalem, and this general, whose name I don't remember, gave a really an excellent breakdown of Israel's situation with the West Bank. And on our way out, there were people from Matzpen there, saying, "There are no Arabs, why don't they do that?" I'd already finished my year in the old city. And John Diesendruck was marching together with them and saying, "You're brainwashing us." So I said, "Don't worry about it, John." I also went to this guy from Matzpen. I said, "I'm going to get together a talk with an Arab journalist. Would you like to come?" So he said, "Yes." But when we invited him, it was I don't know if you remember, it was in East Jerusalem, in a restaurant.
Yes.
The Jerusalem City Restaurant, it was called, on Salahuddin Street. So I brought Ahmed, who was a newspaperman from East Jerusalem, and he spoke to you guys.
Uh-huh.
And it was very exciting. It was.
You brought us politicians. You brought us people who changed the country, generals, Sammy Cooper, and Rabbi Steinsaltz.
Steinsaltz, yes.
Who was one of the most incredible lectures I've ever listened to. And I remember getting into some deep discussion with you. I wish I remembered what it was about. Some deep philosophical. You're a real thinker, and
he was brilliant. But there were a lot of them in the country. The year before, we had Stanley Marone in Far Bloom, and he was a student of Buber's.
How did you get these guys to teach us?
You guys were important. I mean, Israel was a little country, a young country, and you were right. The Urim was smack on the border. It still is with the Gaza Strip, and nobody knew it was going to be the next day. Every day was a day. So you were important. And
See, it was such a year. It was like during it was a war going on. The war in between the 6 Day War.
Vietnam?
No, in Israel there was a war. Milchemet Hatasha.
Tashayas.
And there was terrorism everywhere. And we were like, I don't know, 6 kilometers from the Gaza Strip. These urban North American kids who barely out of diapers. and how we survived that year. We're not going to go into details, but there was such crazy things going on. And weren't you scared at any point? Like for our welfare, we got into so much trouble. I don't want to go into detail.
I remember when a couple of kids took their Chofish Mudrach and disappeared to Paris somewhere, left the country. And I'm the local parentis. That's me, all right? I said, how am I going to call up these guys in Chicago somewhere and say I lost your kid? So fortunately,
we had one kid who disappeared and turned up in the States.
One went back, and the other one came back to Israel. I think he went to the group. I'm not sure. My memory is a little bit blurry there.
I think that the fact that you were able to put up with me for a year.
You were good. No,
I was not good. I gave you a Gehaktetzoris, but if you remember me in a good way, then I'm really appreciative, because I thought this was a really good opportunity to come out and say I'm sorry for whatever I said or did.
You were a great guy. You were just I felt that you're you had trouble relating to the other kids. On the one hand, the other hand, it was clear that you're a very clever young guy, and you did things. You were active. I mean, you were in the Yellow Submarine, and
yeah. Well, it was an opportunity for us to get to know Israel, and I spoke Hebrew, and I don't know whether you remember, but Arthur and I decided to go visit every home in the kibbutz during the year. And
somebody just, whenever somebody comes in from Facebook, it goes bing.
I'm saying, Arthur and I, one of the crazy things we did is we decided every evening to visit a family on the kibbutz. Whether they wanted us or not, we would just knock on the door and walk in and sit down.
Wait, didn't you have a mishpacha? Didn't you have a
yes,
family?
My family was the Kasdais, the Cassidys.
And
Shimon Cassidy had grown up in Winnipeg with my parents. So the first night I was on Kibbutz Urim, and I went.
So you didn't want to go to friends of your parents. I had to go somewhere else.
The Cassidys, they were wonderful, but we wanted to get to know the kibbutz. We wanted to get to know everything about Israel, everything about the kibbutz. By the end of the year,
so you went from family to family.
Yeah, we knew everybody, but we disturbed them in the middle of sex. We just knocked on the door and walked in. Socialism. So I'm sitting with the Cassidys on the first night, and I'm speaking to them in Hebrew. And they're very nice. Shimon and Batya are answering me very nicely in Hebrew. And then after about an hour, Shimon understands. He says, Mel, we haven't forgotten to speak English. Anyway, I want to move forward to now, okay? You have had a wonderful career as a mentor, counselor. When I phoned you to be on the program, you said, Mel, I'm kind of busy. Let me check my schedule. So what have you been doing these past couple of decades? that makes you so busy?
Well, look, when I got to Bet Shemesh, and I was looking around for what to do, it turns out that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed person is king. So when I got my master's in counseling, I did work in Gestalt, and I'd become more or less of an accredited psychotherapist. I say more or less because I didn't allow myself to do anything with that until 10 years or so later. But they came and they asked for somebody who knew something about drugs, because there was a committee, a national committee on dealing with the drug problem in the country at that time. And so I was the one-eyed man. I said, sure, I know about it. I handled it in 2 workshops. And as a kid, I sold drugs for a short period of time. So,
One second. You sold drugs?
that's a short, there's no point mentioning it. I did it once.
So
I
you
got some
mentioned
money
it.
back. Huh?
You mentioned it just now, you know.
Okay. It was, I fell off a trolley and I got onto this beach to wash up, and they had a fire, and there were girls there and the guy, and I spent some time with him before I went home, and the guy came and he said, do you want to make some money? And I said, okay. And he sent me someplace with a package. I delivered it. I realized the person who bought it was in trouble. And it was in the neighborhood right next to the railway, the subway station, but it was above ground.
So now we know why you really left America.
Why? I don't know.
You were on somebody's list.
No, it never got like that.
Zvi, okay, so we're gonna go back now. Okay, so you were the one-eyed king.
So I had to put together a program to prevent the use of drugs. So how can you prove that somebody is not using? Problem. So I did something else. I said there are 4 related topics. If we get more kids that'll go in the army and stay there, if we can cut down the amount of crime of youth, if we can get more kids back to schooling, and if we can get the other kids working somewhere where they're making a living. So I got, and what I did is I got people together. I found my one best friend in Bet Shemesh over the years, Yossi Cohen. In my first couple of weeks there, I was talking university talk. Nobody understood what I was saying. And all of a sudden I see this guy with a beard laughing because he had understood that I was having trouble. He didn't help me, but he understood that. And then together with him, we got together a social worker, somebody from the parole board, somebody who ran the youth, the Bet Nor, the youth club, and we had like 6 people, and somebody working with youth at risk, and we put together the program, and we got numbers about how many kids are not in any proper place in their teens and their late teens, and we went to work, and inside of it was 2.5 years, great results, came back 100%. They called me into a big meeting, the whole government, a big meeting, and they asked me to explain what I did. And I started out by saying, if the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Welfare and the Ministry of Health all did their jobs, we wouldn't need this, because these kids really want to be beseder. They want to become part of they just didn't make it in, and none of these groups that are supposed to be helping did it. So they cut off the money for the program on the spot. Well, not on the spot, the day after. But that was my entrance into the world of drug prevention and drug addiction. And then I'm good at understanding people and figuring out, like I said, a chameleon. I figure out what goes on in the mind of somebody who does something he's killing himself and he realizes it and he's doing it anyway. What kind of logic is there? I figured it out. I did, apparently, because I trained a couple of thousand social workers and they all did well.
In one sentence, what is the secret?
It's a different logic. You have one logic, I have another logic, and there's a certain logic where you need something, and the something that you need turns into your enemy, and you're trapped with it. I guess it's like a bad marriage that you can't get out of, but that's you're stuck. And all you know how to do is do more. You try something, it's not working, I'll take more. But the reason is different for every single person. But the idea is that the drug is not the sickness, the drug is just a thing. It can be used for good or for bad. The sickness is there's only one thing that'll bring me happiness. And no, we have to have around 20 or 30 different things. Family and going to Hutzlaritz, to travel, hiking, this and that. You have to have a whole bunch of things. If you have only one, then the tail wags the dog.
So this is remarkable.
So we came up with a program, and at the time there was no place to do detox. So we started doing family detox, which is really crazy, because in 80% of the cases, the family is the source of the addiction, and to solve the family problems, he was taking drugs. And the families has to do it. And so we were training the families at the same time. And we built a program that they found 4 experts in the country. I was one of them, experts, one-eyed men. Men and women.
So before we get to the Beatles, and we're towards the end of the show, so I want to rethink with you one thing, okay? In your life, you've done so many things, right?
Mm.
You've been so many places, and you were a sheep farmer and a counselor and a psychotherapist, and even in this 1 year,
Education also.
yeah, you were a teacher, a rabbi, a scout.
Not a rabbi. I taught the philosophy of education in the university in Jerusalem.
Yeah, a physician, a lawyer. During this year of workshop, you had so many hats, and then you say to me now, in order to enjoy life, you have to have 20 or 30 things that bring you pleasure.
Hmm?
You have to have 20 or 30 things that bring you pleasure.
Yeah.
So, of all the things that you've done, all the stuff that we've talked about, okay, where is numero uno for you, Harold Zvi Miller, celebrating your 90th birthday and such a young guy? What would be numero uno?
It keeps changing. That's the beautiful thing. Look, at different times, you need different things. You're growing up, you need different things. I'm getting old, I need different things. And I think I'm a work in progress, but I think people can do that. That's part of my work. You have to remake yourself
You're
because
a lovely work in progress. Uh, I want to remind you that 4 days ago you sent me an email. Mel, you have to focus more.
yes,
And
it's time. It's
I,
time
I, I
to time to circle your wagons, is what I said. But I would change it. I just say, just you have to keep going and doing the things that you're doing, but that give you pleasure, and you can recreate yourself.
it
Because
turns
people
it
get
turns
stuck.
yeah.
People get stuck in life, and they get stuck because you get a picture of what life is like, and you believe yourself. But that's stupid. You can't believe yourself because you don't know yet, right? So you have to figure it out like every time, every months or years or like that. But you go along and you say, "Some now what?" So these days I watch opera a lot. I never used to be musical at all. So that's the new thing I've added.
So when
And
we were yeah, sorry.
hmm? And people come to me. I mean, some clients from the past show up, and I sit with them, and we work things out.
Zvi, this has been it's been great. It's like the past 51 years have just gone by like that. You're still the same Zvi, which
I'm
is
a different man.
I, I know, but I'm saying it anyway. We're all different, but the core of us might remain the same.
Yes, I'm still like that. I still look for new things.
Yeah, and this was wonderful. One of the things that gives me great joy these days is interviewing amazing human beings like you. And we're going to sign off not with opera, but with the Beatles. And
Good.
I'm addicted to the Beatles. I give courses on the Beatles. But
Oh,
when we were on workshop with you, Abbey Road
mm.
came out.
Hmm?
The record Abbey Road, the
Yeah,
Beatles, their last real
the
recording.
white record.
Okay, after the White Record, but Abbey Road came out, and I remember I have this vivid memory of dancing in the Moadon with this wonderful Beatles music, and this was the culmination of their career together and our life on the kibbutz, at least for us. What's your favorite Beatles song?
Hmm. I like the Hard Day's Work
A Hard Day's
and
Night.
Hard Day's Night. Yeah,
You're the second person this week to mention that song.
I was never. I was not that much of a Beatles fan. I was a Grateful Dead man. Uh, but that stays with me anyway. It was easy. It was easy, and I'm not. Music is not my field. That's why now, and I'm 90, I allow myself to get in a little bit. Married to a woman for 42 years who was a musician, so I got no choice.
She's a musician. Her children are musicians.
Our grandchildren are
The children
musicians.
of her children are musicians.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So listen, Zvi, this has been remarkable,
Thank you.
and I think that we should plan, let's say, every decade or so to get together and have an interview, something like that.
Okay, 10 years from now.
Yeah, and if
I did that.
is
Weasel's writing it down.
okay, is Weasel around? Can we say hello to her?
Sure, here she is.
Just by accident, I happened to drop in.
Hi,
Hi
Weasel
there,
dear. You haven't
Hi.
changed a bit. Did you enjoy this?
Yes, I was really watching in the other room until all of a sudden the picture flipped off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I got to the original. So yes, I really did enjoy it.
Is there
And
anything?
you asked good questions.
Um, So thank you very much. Is there anything that you want to correct or add here?
And no, this was Zvi's big opportunity to not have him corrected.
Okay. I have a feeling I'm going the wrong direction here. So Harold Zvi Miller and Weasel, I wish you guys lots of health in this difficult time, and hope that soon we'll be able to hug each other in person and drink l'chaim, and you guys take care of yourselves. This was wonderful.
Okay. Lihitraot.
Litraot, and thanks a lot.
Bye
Harold
bye.
Thank
Miller
you.
and
Yes.
Weasel on You've
Nice
Got Mel.
opportunity. Okay. Bye-bye.